Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. The Curse of Oak Island, Marine Archaeologist explains what the guys have found in the swamp. This week on The Curse of Oak Island, the team consulted a marine archaeologist about the artifacts found in the swamp, and Gary Drayton's metal detector actually picked up on an ancient coin. The guys just can't stop finding artifacts in the swamp. Both Rick and Marty Lagina pointed out early on in last night's episode that every time they go digging in the boggy land they find something. These finds range from ancient tools to ship's railings and decking, to an actual stone roadway and a ship's wharf. Later in the episode, Dr. Ian Spooner referred to the swamp as a book because they find something significant every time they look into it. And it was no different yesterday as Gary Drayton and Billy Gerhard continued to pull various pieces of wood out of the marshy land. Unfortunately, Gary still doesn't have a wood dance to accompany his gold dance, but he still couldn't hide his excitement over the variety of interesting items they were uncovering. Dr. Lee Spence expected the Oak Island artifacts. The guys decided it was time to have an expert look at all these artifacts, so they welcomed marine archaeologist Dr. Lee Spence to the war room, hoping that he would impart some wisdom. The team is still hoping that an ancient treasure ship is buried in the swamp, and they mainly wanted Lee to let them know if these artifacts were nautical in origin. Lee has spent a lifetime researching maritime history, and he found his first wreck on a dive when he was just 12 years old, so there was no doubting his credentials, and he told the guys exactly what they wanted to hear. Most of the items found could easily be part of a ship, he said. There was one item that looked like a rather large wooden pin, which Lee said was likely a fid. Fids were used to manipulate rope on sailing ships, and he said this one probably came from a large sailing ship. Later in the episode, the team received the results of some carbon dating tests they'd ordered on a couple of the swamp items, and excitingly they were dated from approximately 1680 to 1750. These dates, or similar, keep cropping up in the course of their research, and everyone is starting to believe that something of great significance happened on Oak Island sometime between 160 and 1750. There was excitement over a coin find, but disappointment at the money pit. Meanwhile, Gary Drayton actually found a coin, and no, it wasn't a Canadian dollar. Yes, you read that right. The metal detectorist, along with Michael John, were exploring Lot 32, near the swamp by the coast, when they found the circular coin-like object. Gary thought it looked very similar to two British 17th-century coins the guys found in 2018, but he resisted the urge to scrape the dirt off for fear of damaging it and sent it off to the archaeology trailer for proper study. We'll hopefully hear the results of that next week. Regulars of the show will know you can't have a high without a low on Oak Island. With that in mind, it was perhaps no surprise that there was a major disappointment at the money pit. Last week, there was lots of excitement when they thought they'd hit a cavity that may have been a secret chamber. And their excitement was again piqued last night when the drill appeared to hit the cavity once again. However, disappointment crept into their faces when a core sample pulled up some eelgrass. This organic material was used with coconut fiber in the construction of flood tunnels. This meant the cavity was unlikely to be a secret chamber stuffed with treasure, but was probably a boring old flood tunnel. As the camera panned across the eerie landscape of Oak Island, the swamp stood like a silent sentinel, shrouded in mist. The air was heavy with the scent of salt water and wet earth. For centuries this swamp had kept its secrets well, but the relentless pursuit of the treasure hunters had stirred something beneath its surface, something long forgotten. Dr. Evelyn Harper, a marine archaeologist with decades of experience studying underwater anomalies and submerged structures, stood at the edge of the swamp. Her bright eyes sparkled with excitement, though her weathered face remained calm and composed. She had been called in as a specialist to help interpret the findings that had left the Oak Island team both baffled and intrigued. "I've been studying coastal landscapes and submerged sites for most of my career," Dr. Harper began, her voice clear and steady, yet filled with the kind of passion that only comes from a lifetime dedicated to uncovering the past. "But this swamp, it's unlike anything I've ever encountered." Marty Lagina, one of the key treasure hunters on the island, stood beside her, arms crossed, eyes locked on the murky water. He had seen plenty of strange things on Oak Island, but the swamp was becoming a source of more questions than answers. Over the past few seasons, the team had found what appeared to be man-made structures beneath the muck, including stone pathways and possible remnants of a ship's decking. But what did it all mean? Dr. Harper turned toward the camera, addressing the viewers as much as she was speaking to Marty and the rest of the crew. The swamp itself is an anomaly, she explained. It shouldn't exist in this form. Given Oak Island's natural geography, this area would have been part of the ocean hundreds of years ago. The shape of the land suggests that it was artificially created, possibly dammed up to hide something. And if that's true, whoever did this went to extraordinary lengths to cover their tracks. Rick Lagina, always the more contemplative of the two brothers, approached, listening intently. You're saying the swamp was man-made? Dr. Harper nodded. That's right. Based on my analysis, the evidence points to human intervention. The stone path we've uncovered likely served as a bridge or causeway, but what's even more intriguing is the wooden structure you found last season. After carbon dating the wood, it dates back to the late 1600s, just before the period when we believe the island became a hotbed of secretive activity. Marty raised an eyebrow. So you're suggesting this swamp could be hiding something big? Dr. Harper smiled, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. I believe the swamp is part of a much larger puzzle. It's not just the debris or remnants of a shipwreck we're dealing with. The arrangement of stones and the depth of the anomalies we've found suggest this area could have been used to transport something, or someone, across the island. In maritime archaeology, we often find that submerged landscapes hide docks or mooring points, but here it feels like something more deliberate. The crew gathered around, eager to hear what she had to say next. Craig Tester, the team's expert in engineering and a steadfast believer in hard evidence, leaned in curious. We've speculated for years about the idea of a treasure or even a hidden vault beneath the island. Could the swamp have been designed to flood, to conceal something? Precisely, Dr. Harper replied. What we have here is a defensive mechanism, a kind of natural camouflage. The swamp would have been an ideal place to sink heavy objects, like a treasure chest, into the muck, ensuring they wouldn't be found by anyone but the most determined of searchers. Rick frowned, the weight of centuries of mystery etched into his brow. But if the swamp was created to hide something, why, and by whom? Dr. Harper paused, gazing out over the water, where a slight ripple disturbed the surface as if the swamp itself was responding to their questions. That's the real mystery, isn't it? The history of Oak Island is filled with tales of pirates, Templar knights, and secret societies. All of them could have had the knowledge and resources to manipulate the landscape in this way. But there's also the possibility of more practical motivations, early settlers, explorers, or even a rogue nation looking to hide something of value from prying eyes. Jack Begley, always the optimist, chimed in, like treasure? Dr. Harper chuckled softly. It's always a possibility, Jack. But what fascinates me more than the idea of treasure is the sheer complexity of what we found. The engineering needed to dam this area off from the ocean and create a swamp would have required expertise in hydrology and construction. It wasn't a job done in haste. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Marty rubbed his chin, still digesting the information. So you're saying this was a coordinated effort? Absolutely, Dr. Harper said with certainty. And the fact that this swamp remained undisturbed for so long suggests that the operation was highly secretive. The stone pathway you've uncovered, it could have been part of a larger route used to transport something to or from the island. I wouldn't be surprised if we find more structures like it hidden beneath the water. Rick's mind raced. And what about the ship's decking we found? Could that be connected? Dr. Harper's face lit up with enthusiasm. That's one of the most compelling pieces of evidence. If a ship was deliberately scuttled in the swamp, it would have served two purposes. First, to transport whatever it was carrying to the island, and second, to destroy any trace of where it came from or who was involved. The crew fell silent, the enormity of the theory sinking in. If the swamp was designed as a hiding place, and if a ship was deliberately sunk there, what else could be lurking beneath the murky waters?